That was, of course, Texas Flood by Stevie Ray Vaughan, reflecting what's going on today with Dion down there in Austin, Texas. Hello and welcome to Alpha Anywhere Demo and Q&A Webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Products and Services here at Alpha Software, and I'm pleased to present Dion McCormick, no relation, who is our lead solutions engineer. Today, I believe he's going to be going back over JSON as the topic, talking a little bit about that, but he'll also be here to answer your questions. So you go ahead and type those questions into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. So let's get started. Hello, Dion, are you there?
Yes, I am still here.
Excellent. And
yes.
I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter. So wild rain and stuff going on out your window right now? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, just getting, well, we get those thunder and lightning coming through, and you get some rollers, and man, sometimes that lightning kind of takes out stuff.
Right.
So when it starts flickering, I get a little worried.
It'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I stop speaking to everybody, I'm not ghosting you.
All right. I'll keep that in mind.
It's not on purpose. Cool. Well, hey, thank you everybody for joining us on this very wet, well, in our area day. And we appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. First and foremost, as we say, we are here for you. So please take the time to go to the questions area of your of the GoToWebinar control panel. Take a moment, write down those questions. Dave will be monitoring those, and we will do everything in our power to answer those questions for you. And always, if you have questions, send them to guides at alphasoftware.com. That's GUIDES at alphasoftware.com. We love to hear about you ahead of time because that allows us to prepare and actually be a little more effective in terms of our ability to answer those questions. But we are definitely going to spend time doing that today. So we want you to take the time, put it in, and we'll go from there. So I just kind of wanted to just spend a little time, not going to really drive a ton of time on this, but I want to share some experiences this week, and the fact that the reality is JSON has got to be a core piece of any developer's sort of toolkit, especially when you start talking mobile and other elements along those lines. Now, historically, Alpha has had a very interesting roadmap. This is our current roadmap, but if you look if you went back into the dusty trails before they were deer paths, before they became roads, Alpha started as a standalone database product, and built into it was both the ability to create user interfaces, programming, but also the database elements. And then over time shifted. Now Alpha became a front end on top of existing databases. And then the migration of that was to add the mobile aspects to it while preserving all of that history and capabilities. And now we're into a whole new realm, which is really, we've talked a lot about it, is the API world, where we're focusing more and more, not only just interfacing with back-end database systems, but systems that really don't present a database, but present a full API. And so as Alpha continues to emerge and grow and develop, the whole world of APIs is becoming more and more important. And the reason I mention that is this week, I spent a fair amount of time working on a very cool project where we have a client who is using Transform as their field solution, i.e. the actual, on the device what the person in the field is doing. And then they already had an Alpha Anywhere database solution, i.e. dashboard, that was working great. And so we've been working on connecting the two together. And so therefore you get the best of both worlds. You get all the horsepower, the ability to do database front ends, all the flexibility of Alpha Anywhere, but now they've been able to rapidly deploy a very complex solution using Transform out in the field in a time frame that was far shorter than they could if they tried to build either a custom a custom mobile app, or even a app built on top of Alpha Anywhere. There was just so much built-in functionality into Transform. It turned out it was far easier just to do an integration than to build from scratch. And that's what we're seeing more and more with the Transform product, is people are using it first as a rapid prototyping capability, but more and more, because Transform is getting so much more powerful with the advent of TPL, on-device manifest, where you can pull down other data, it's really becoming just much more sense to build the mobile side on Transform, but then gain all the ability to connect it to Alpha. So I spent a lot of time on that. And what I really came to realize is that the world is moving towards APIs, and more importantly, the use of JSON with APIs. So I wanted to just spend a little bit of time today just kind of pointing you in the right direction, because as you move in this direction yourself, I mean, you may be focused purely on front ends on top of databases, and that's great. That's going nowhere. But you'll see over time, you're going to be pulled into that web API world, and it's just going to be a matter of time when that will occur. And the better you're positioned and prepared for that, the better you're going to be able to take advantage of it and accelerate everything you're doing with that capability here. Now, the core of the web API world, there's really two types of web APIs out there. There's RESTful interfaces, and then the more traditional SOAP interfaces. And if you look at any statistic out there, the RESTful interfaces is just dominant, and it's becoming every new item is really, you know, SOAP is still out there. There's still a lot of legacy on that, but the reality is it's really moved towards REST. And a key part of REST protocol is using JSON as that payload information between them. So that is something that is embraced by the web API world. But I wanted to kind of iterate that we are doing more and more things with JSON. So for instance, the list control, when it's operating on the mobile device, guess what? It's working with JSON. When you're using, and we've talked about this, the view box control, well, you're looking at JSON. And then if you look at any other element of how we integrate with our web services, such as Transform, the core of it is JSON. In fact, if you look at Transform, and I'm going to go ahead and pop over there real quick. Let's go ahead and go to Transform Central. Okay, I'm going to grab just something here, and I'm going to go to here. This is the Transform Designer. I'm looking at a form here called All Things Scottish. And what I want to do is I can actually go in here and look at the entire form definition, and you'll see, guess what? It's Transform. Has some metadata here. Then it has a list of the different fields, and it's all manifested itself as JSON. Now, if I pop over to the Management Console, which is going to show me my instances of forms, and I go to All Things Scottish, I go here and I look at the JSON, well, the data itself is managed by JSON. So the beauty of this is that everything is based on JSON, and it keeps it simple, it's understandable, it's focused, and it's one of those things where, you know, as you get more comfortable with JSON, you're going to be very, very empowered in what you do. And I'm going to actually show you a demo in a few moments of a built-in capability that's in Alpha Anywhere right now that you may find very, very intriguing from there. Now, we talked JSON on there. So the question becomes, well, I need to learn more about JSON. And what's phenomenal is that our phenomenal documentation and development team has done a great job of building up JSON understanding and information for you to tap into. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this here. Let me copy that. And I'll go ahead and go to the chat area, and I'm going to paste this in here, but bookmark this one right here. This is one I would bookmark for sure. This is a great primer. It's in our user's guide. You know, our user guide has a bunch of number of different things, but the one we love is data integration. And what it has in here is a complete primer on JSON, introducing it from the very simplistic levels down to the complex capabilities, all the things you can do with JSON, including things like image data and server side and our template tester and all that stuff there. So what's really cool about this is that if you know nothing about JSON, if you just spend a little time going through this, you're going to have a real good feel for what JSON is, how it works, how it operates, and the incredible amount of power that's available to you as a developer with this available. And that's going to really become important when you come into the world of either web APIs or using JSON internally in Alpha to do view boxes and other things like that. You're just going to run across it. So I highly encourage for people to kind of get involved, spend some time learning more about JSON, and the more you know, the less daunting it will be and the more you'll understand it. And there's a lot of built-in capabilities. So for instance, one of the key things in this project I was doing is that the data coming from Transform, let me pop back there, looks like this. And so it's just a bunch of text with some information. Now, I did a better job in mine and actually gave these things field names so they weren't just so generic. But what I needed to do was take that data, extract the information, and then make a bunch of database calls to update some databases. And actually what's neat is there's some really fun new features that the team is building in to do some of those things automatically. But what's really easy is that I was able to turn this into a pointer variable and then run through it and then use standard alpha calls. And again, the more you understand JSON, how to manipulate it, how to create it, how to consume it through that documentation, you're just going to find that it's going to go really well for yourself, and you're going to be able to do a lot of really cool stuff with it. Now, I want to go ahead and show you one other demo, and then we'll open it up for questions. But the most important thing is where to go get information about JSON. But let me show you one of the powerful aspects of JSON. This is really, really cool. So I'm going to go into my alpha development environment, and I'm going to go to the UX section here, which where I do all my UX stuff here. And I'm going to create a new UX, and I'm going to build it off of an existing template that we have. So I'm going to click New. I'm going to go here and select UX, and I'm going to go down till I find this one right here. And it's almost at the top. Actually, if I go back up, you'll see it's about 6 or 8 down or so. But it's called Mobile App Framework Data-Driven Forms. And this is really cool. If anything, this kind of shows you a little bit of how Transform was built. So I'm going to select this and click OK. It's going to give me a little help here, kind of describing what this does, and click OK. Okay, so this is a pre-made UX here, and I'm going to save this. I'll go data-driven form 2. Okay. And let me just show you how this works. So you'll see in here that we basically have a view box with some editors. So this is called, the view box uses some editors to do the editing from along those lines. So let me go ahead and just show you a demonstration of how this works. And this will kind of highlight a little bit of how powerful JSON is. Oh, nope, I gotta go. Oh, that's a pre-release. Okay, let me go back. Sorry, that's what you get for running pre-release.
That's a pretty impressive selection of errors there, though.
I know, that one's impressive.
All right, we'll do live preview.
Oh, am I using Chrome? Good, I'm using Chrome. Always good to check that first. Okay, hopefully we won't have this. And oh my, I must have a corrupt thing, or must. Oh no, I wanted to show this demo. Hold on a second here. Let me open up my previous one. Maybe I might have to belay it to our next meeting, but let me go on. I think there were some changes on how. Okay, yeah. So what it is I've got a new pre-release, and my thinking is something, so we'll get that taken care of there. But this is a very straightforward. So the idea behind this, and notice there's some really good documentation built into this example that walks through everything here. So I'm going to go back and show you here that traditionally when you're creating a user interface, you would have fields for the different fields in your data, like, you know, first name, last name, address, age, etc., kind of things from here. But you'll notice that I don't have a fixed set of fields. Rather, I have a view box and a set of editors. And this is using the form view concept where we have different types of editors. Like I'm going to edit some text box data, some data information, some time data. So I'm going to go into working preview and show you this real quick. So what I'm going to do is click here, get form definition. I'm going to click there and watch what happens. you'll see that on the fly, it builds a form for me. So these items right here are data driven, meaning that I didn't actually put a rating thing on there, a date value. What I did is I told it to, here is how I want this form to be. And now I can go in here and go through these and adjust them and do these things along this lines. And basically what it's doing is based on the fly, it's built a form for me. And when I click submit, watch what happens. If I go in here, I'm going to look at this. It's just doing a little help there. I can sit there and, oh, after dialog, there you go. Data submitted, a VB1. There we go. And so let me go ahead and show you this, is that after I submit it, then all of the data in that form, the rating, the date, etc., is a set of JSON. So I can go back in real quick and let's go ahead and do a working preview here and just show you that again, is that our form, as far as we know, didn't exist as constructed. When we click get form definition, it actually takes and builds this form on the fly. And then when I submit it, I can extract the data back out. So the really powerful thing, and this is kind of how Transform works, is that now you can create data-driven forms with JSON. You don't have to lay them out ahead of time. And you can do things like this is, here's my form. I can tell it to go ahead and set the values. So let's say this is my form. Then I can say, oh, you know what? I want to set it to certain values. And you'll notice that when I click this button, it basically told the form to set the rating to 4, this to this, this. So let's go back and look. I want to go back and show you real quick just to look what it goes. So this is where the magic occurs, is when, and I apologize, I'm jumping around, is when I click this button right here, it runs a AJAX callback that goes back to the server and runs getForm. Now in my functions here, I have that function called getForm, and all I'm doing is returning some JSON. So you'll notice this is my JSON here. So we have my heading, then we have that star rating, and in here is it's the group, the name, some like what the icon is that should show, some color aspects. Then here's my date one. So each of these is technically a control in the form, but it's all defined off JSON. So when I click that button, it basically reads this and then updates on the fly that form. So if I wanted to change this, I could go in here and just change some of the things here, like rating 1, 2, 3, 4. And now let me go my working preview. And let me just show you an example of that. So this is, I've changed the text that should be on that form for the rating. I'll get form definition. And notice rating 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. There. So I didn't go here to the controls, go to a text box, and then change that. I did it by changing the data that drives that form. Very powerful. So if I want to change that, I can go here. So think of the power of that. Well, since I don't have to do that, I could generate this on the fly. I could read from a database and do this. There's many techniques that are available to do that. So it allows you to essentially build an on-the-fly form that does it. And we did an example of this, which is really powerful, is that we had a client who they wanted to be able to have data-driven forms. So what they did is they had a database that said, okay, here's my form, and here are the fields I want in that form. And in each field we had a name and a type. So it was like field 1 was like a switch box. Field 2 was a text box. We kept it very simple because we didn't want to get too crazy with it. But now they could go to basically a grid on that data table, modify the elements, hit a button, it turned that into JSON, which is what you see here. And that JSON drove the form on the actual device. So now they never had to modify their mobile device. They could just use this. So it's a really fun component. And what's great is there's a lot of documentation around it. There's this live example built into it here. So let me go ahead and go back here and show you what it is. Actually, when you run this, you'll see that there's some videos that walk you through exactly how this works. What's kind of fun is that it has a pretty wide range of editors. So we have text box, you can add dates, you could do time, you could actually have a list control where you have like select from an item of list. You could capture signatures, text areas, which is like a larger text thing, keypad, and alphanumeric keypad. And the reality is this is kind of how Transform works. We've just adapted it, but this is something you may want to have fun with and play with and experiment with it. But the real reason I wanted to show you was the power of the fact that once you kind of understand JSON, this JSON is used throughout the alpha system and with web APIs. So it's something that's really going to make your life a lot easier and allow you to do some incredible things. And I also wanted to show you that there's this cool, very cool built-in template. And again, it's called Mobile App Framework Data-Driven Forms. Play with it, have fun with it. It's a really, really good time. So I highly recommend, let me go back here real quick, I'm sorry. Go to this page, check it out, spend a lot of time. It's a very easy read. Someone I think generated this walks you through there. There's some built-in videos that you can watch along with it. And there's actual little code examples where you can play with it and see what it does. And it's talking about all the built-in functions to take, say, JSON, like a pointer variable, turn it into JSON and back, which is things you'll use very heavily from there. Check out that one data-driven form, which is really fun. And I think you'll really enjoy it. You'll find that by understanding that, you're going to be able to do a lot of cool things very easily, make your systems more easy to manage, to modify, to maintain, and it's going to open up a whole new bag of tricks. And as you start using things such as the list control, the view box, the form view, etc., by knowing what the JSON is, even like the expanding menu, you're going to be in a better position to be able to rapidly use those and build them in, because the development team now, JSON is everything. We use JSON for so many different things, and we've just embraced that and will continue to do so. I mean, actually, and just a little note here, I'm going to go into this data-driven form here. And I'm going to go down here, or actually, you know what I'm going to do? Watch this. This is how deep we go with this stuff. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to data-driven form, or I'll just grab any of these components and I'm going to say edit with Notepad and check it out. We even store our controls on this drive as JSON. So we're actually, this is all JSON. So this definition of this component file is no longer a binary, it's a JSON. So you can see, and obviously I would not suggest modifying this, but you'll see the style of the UX, the name of the UX. Here's some other things like talking about the different fields and stuff. All of this is kind of inside baseball stuff, but we permeate JSON throughout everything we do. And the more you know, the better off you'll be able to take advantage of all of the alpha's capabilities. And we have lots of new things coming along with this. One of the coolest things possible, which is being worked on by the development team, which I don't think is going to ruin the thunder, but one of the key things you need to be able to do is move between database tables and JSON and back and forth. Well, the ability to read databases and turn them into JSON is already built into it. In fact, there are pre-built functions in our connections, or not our connection strings, but our database capabilities that will actually take a result and turn it right into JSON. In fact, in the tool, we have our Xbasic genies that will do all that for you. But the other question is, well, great, now I want to take JSON and I want to put that into the database. Well, that's a little different animal. But what's going on, and it's part of our roadmap to make it much, much easier for you to be able to do these things, is that the team is working on some automated genies and scripts and tools that allow you to take JSON and on the fly either create or insert into database structures, and you'll be seeing that really soon. It's really, really cool. It's kind of being driven out of Transform because everything in Transform is JSON and we need to be able to sort it, but that stuff's coming along. But that kind of shows you how JSON is such a critical part of everything we're doing. I can't encourage you enough to spend some time starting to learn about JSON or really get your depth of JSON going, because it'll just unlock so many great things for you, for your development, and for your potential applications and clients. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. I appreciate you kind of let me preach for a little bit here. The storm looks like it's passing, so I think I'm good, but there's no guarantee.
Excellent.
Yes.
So the view box control that you had shown just before, and you showed that it was in JSON format, that you could modify it. I guess my question would be, like, how would you know what you're supposed to put in that JSON? Do you get an output of it from someplace and then paste it into your script?
Oh,
When you're building up that, so if you go
yeah.
back into
So
anywhere, I'll show you what
it's going to be a little bit of detective work. I don't think
Yeah.
we've documented exactly what it is, but
Yep.
this, for this example, there is an
Mhm.
example of each of the type of controls. So
Oh,
this is
okay.
called a header control. That's like at the very top there. So this is how you would add a header. This one is how you would add a star rating. This is how you would do a date. This is how you do a switch. And again, you for this kind of thing, and again, on that other project I did it, we kept it very simple. We said the user is going to put in one of three things. They're going to either
Right.
put in a true false, because it was kind of a checklist application. So that was a switch, or
Yep.
a piece of static text for instructions, or a text box. So we
Okay.
limited the universe to that, and it became
Right.
simple. So this will show
Oh,
you.
I see what you mean. Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
That does make
no,
sense.
that's a good question.
Yep. Another question for you. This has to do with Alpha 5, like, is a desktop application, can run Xbasic. That's fine. This
Right.
person is interested in taking their desktop app and not building a web app or anything, but actually using it with Transform. So how could you go about doing that? You could certainly make those calls directly from Xbasic in your own application. So maybe if you could show off
Yeah, good point.
the
Yes.
tools that are there to help you create that Xbasic for working with Transform, that might make that job
That is
easier.
great. Excellent question.
Yeah.
We really
So it
appreciate
is
that.
interesting. Yeah, there's no reason you couldn't build a Windows desktop application and
Not
not
at all.
run an internal server, which I understand might be a pain. You don't want to set all that up. Just do it the old way, and take advantage of the Transform features.
The old way is not necessarily the bad way,
No, not at
Okay.
all. Yeah.
Hey, America's over 200 years old. We're still using that same darn Constitution. Seems to be working good. So anyway, sorry, just too much, Supreme Court stuff. I got to get off the news, man. It's really ruining my life.
Exactly.
So I know I'm so angry. I don't know why. So
Got to tune
here's
up.
the key. Again, I love what this is. Okay, so it begets that project I've been working on this week is like, well, okay, I'm really comfortable in the alpha world. I love alpha. I like scripting in it and do all that stuff, but I need to talk to Transform. How am I going to do that? I mean, it's a web API. Well, if you go into the web projects control panel in alpha and go to tools, Transform API Explorer. Okay. So these are all the different calls you can make to Transform. So for instance, I can delete a form instance. I can create a new user account. I mean, everything you can do manually or through the user interface at Transform Central, you can do here. Like for instance, one of the cool things about that application I did was I wanted to make sure that I was kind of like I used Transform as much as possible. So my app would do the following. It would open up and it would say, okay, first thing I want you to do is list a set of users that are in Transform. So I got a set of it's not in users. Which one is it? Get users. I think it's get account logins. No, that would give me the history. Where's get users? Ah, right there. It's called get users in Transform account. So this is an API call. I entered in my API there. And now what I can do is run that. And what it's going to do is actually exercise call transform and get a set of users back. And notice it's coming back in JSON. So my first step was what I wanted to do was call transform, get a set of users and show them on the screen. Well, I go, okay, great. So I played with this. I made sure that works. And then I went right over here and guess what? here is the Xbasic to make that happen. And as you can see, it's very simple. Basically, we've already done all the work to give it the API key. So this will be dependent upon each of your accounts. And then you have these pieces here and things along those lines. So the cool thing about this is that it's writing the Xbasic for me. So now I copy that to clipboard and I go use it wherever I want to. And so if you have a desktop app, you can essentially use this same methodology to go through and interface with it. So the classic kind of example is this. I've already gone on Transform. So let's say I go on Transform. Let me go to the Transform account and I design my form. So I've got my form here designed. Let me edit the form commands. So these are the different forms here. So I'll do my actual creation of my form. I want the person out in the field to do this. Now I can go back in here and I can use the ability to say, for instance, create new form instance. So I give it the form, all things Scottish. I can say, sign this to someone in there. And I'm doing this statically here. And then this is called the JSON, which is why I say there, this is where you would put in the values for like your values. So like, for instance, I want field 1 equal to hello. And by the way, if you're curious, how do you get that? Well, you just go over here, go to one of your existing ones, and guess what? That's your JSON. In fact, let me go ahead and copy that. Then I go back here and I can just paste it in here. And then I can modify it saying, field 2 is 28 or whatever. But this allows me to then I click test and it's going to generate the Xbasic here to basically create a new form instance there. Then I have the flip side of it, which is where, okay, now what I want to do is after I've submitted the form, I want to get a form. Let's see, where is it? Get form data. Which one is it?
Is it just getForm instances, or is that a different one?
This is the fields in the form. So if you want to read those, get form data array for form ID. Here it is. Get form data for form instant ID. So this instance ID is what's automatically set by Alpha, Transform. Everyone has a unique ID. And what you do is put there, and then it pulls back an instance from there, and it shows you there. So there's a little bit of detective work. What is cool is that the Transform team is starting to create more and more Alpha examples that will be available to people that will do dispatch, etc. What we really want to move towards is providing both Transform, but also a set of pre-made components / examples in Alpha so people can kind of grab it and say, oh, I want to put together a grid that shows the users in here. Well, here's an example, tweak it from there. But this is called the Transform API Explorer. So if someone wants to hook their desktop app, they can completely use this right within there to create Xbasic scripts and then take information out of DBF tables and send them to Transform for editing. Once it's been edited, grab that information back out of Transform and insert it back in the DBF tables. So all of that is doable and doable now with this. It's just a matter of the key ones you want to know is this get form data for form instance ID. And then the other important one is to create new form instance, which is the basic structure for saying, I've got a template or a form definition in Transform. I'm going to go ahead and create a new instance, assign it to someone. And the cool thing about that is the moment you assign that form instance, when they open up their phone and go into Transform, that form appears on their phone. So that's it for dispatch, boom. And then after they click submit, then you could do a couple different things, but you could check the status of that form using these capabilities. Because when I get the form data, let's see, when I do this, it's going to give me not only the form data, but also the metadata, like has it been submitted, what's the last time someone edited it, who edited it, all that's available in these kind of capabilities there. So great question, but you would use this Transform. And the neat thing about it is that this is just Xbasic, so you can literally copy this Xbasic, go to your interactive window and start running it and walk through it and see how it works, see what comes back, and you'll be able to have a lot of fun with it.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Couple other things. Someone is asking, and we may not have an answer here, but on our roadmap, we talked about being able to use JavaScript in the place of, as an alternative to Xbasic. Do you know anything about those plans, or is that just sort of in general something you want to do? And yeah,
what they're working on there is first is that you can already do that at this time, which is through our node.js integration. So built into Alpha, if I go to the here, we have the ability to support, and I wonder if I have any things in here. No, I haven't. I've done it in another project, but you can basically use, when Alpha installs on the server, we install actually 2 servers. One server is the Alpha Anywhere server, and then when behind the scenes, we also install node.js, which is a JavaScript-driven server-side capabilities. And so therefore, you can actually code things in node.js, which is JavaScript, wrap it, and then call it from Alpha. But you still have to go through that Xbasic layer. It's like, basically, if I'm here on Node, I create what's called a Node API. And what a Node API, and this explains it here, is that a Node API allows you to define an Xbasic class where it basically, behind the scenes, it's actually node.js. So we're doing a wrapper kind of thing. So right now what you can do is create your JavaScript in Node, have it working there, and then wrap it with the Node API. And once you've done there, now you can use it in Xbasic, but you still have to go through Xbasic. The goal, and they're working towards this, and this is later this year, it's a little bit farther out because there's some other higher priority things that are being done right now on transform integration and also some of the previous items there, is to allow you to kind of skip that Xbasic class and be able to refer directly to Node, what are called Node modules, Node code directly. And so that's in process, and that opens up a lot of really cool features, because one thing that's cool about Node is there's an enormous amount of modules. Modules are basically like a library of code. So let's say you were going to integrate with Dropbox, or you were going to integrate with Box or Salesforce or any other. Most of these have modules that have been built in Node that are already have all the code to talk to and do things on those platforms. So therefore, you don't have to write a lot of stuff. There's a lot of those examples out there. So that's one of the goals, is one of the cool thing is that instead of us going off and writing a custom Xbasic library to do something, we can go out, get a Node module that connects to this third-party service, put it inside there, and now you can exercise it. The only trick is we still need to wrap it with this Node API for you to be able to use it from a UX or a list control and all those kind of things there. And again, that's the goal, is to go in and eliminate the need for this middle layer here, so you can literally instantiate and run Node code right from your mobile interface. And there's 2 reasons for that. One is, again, to open up to our current developers the ability for you to use all this incredible universe of Node modules out there. It's very well supported. It's a huge, from a, I don't know what the stats are, but there are so many JavaScript programmers out there that it's really, Node has taken off in a big, big way. But it does another thing which is very powerful, is that it opens up Alpha to a whole new range of developers. So now you can come in and use Alpha without having to learn Xbasic. You can basically come in, use Alpha's user interface generation technology, which is very easy, very powerful, along with then working in more of your native language. And there are millions of JavaScript programmers out there across the world. And also, as programmers, you can now leverage other people. You can go to Upwork or Fiverr or something like that and have them help you develop your solutions, because you're not saying, well, I've got to teach you Xbasic and do this. They can work in their native Node, give you that module, you plug it into your app, and you're good to go. So we're very excited about that. I mean, you can do that now, but it's going to take a little work to get that wrapped and working properly. And there's some really good documentation online for that. If we go here, if you go into the Alpha development system, basically we talk about how to do Node, how to do things with Node, how to debug things. But again, you're kind of working through the Xbasic layer. It's kind of the way there. So here's an example of what it's working here. And it looks a little cryptic here. With alpha, with the, where we're going, it's going to be a lot simpler. And for people who look at this, they look at this and they go, oh, I get it. That's JavaScript. That's what they do day in, day out. I look at this and I go, oh, I understand that. That's Xbasic. So it will allow more people to leverage the alpha technology. And this is some examples here within it. So you can bring in all these cool new features into your tools, use them there, and it'll become easier and easier. And I think what's more exciting to me is we now open up the universe to bring in a whole new set of programmers, because we're not forcing them to work our way. We're saying, oh, we can work your way and we can leverage your existing talents and skill sets. Pretty exciting stuff.
Excellent. Okay, so we have a couple of transform questions, and the first one was that just the person they're just starting out right now with Alpha Anywhere, and they're wondering, at what point should they consider transform? And I think either one of us can take a stab at it. I'll take a first stab at it, and you can sort of fill in when I get wrong.
No, please.
But transform, I would say, I would look at it if you're building a mobile application, especially if you're building a mobile application for data collection. I would take a look at building it in Transform before building it in Alpha Anywhere, because you could just get it done just that much faster. The licensing is a little different between the two. Transform is a per user per month licensing model, whereas Alpha Anywhere is based on hardware, so it just depends on what server you're inputting it on. And so it may come out that in almost every case, we've tried to make transform pricing so that it makes sense, that whatever app you're building needs to be, worth it to the people that you're out there to pay for it. But if you say, you know what, never mind, I'm not going to do it in transform anymore. Anyway, I'm just going to do it in Alpha Anywhere, that's always your option, and you could use transform simply as a prototype type of environment. But most people now more and more are finding, I can do transform as to do the whole thing. So I take a look at that. Even if you're already starting Alpha Anywhere now, transform is much easier and quicker to learn, where you'll have an app built in 10 minutes or something. And there isn't nearly as much to it. So, I wouldn't say that just because you're starting out in Alpha Anywhere now that you shouldn't look at Transform now. I would look at both of them.
And agreed. And there are sandbox accounts that you can contact us at. Is it guides, or where should they contact when they want to find out?
So the best one is TF Service, as in Transform Service at alphasoftware.com. That's monitored by a similar but somewhat different group of people here. But a team just like guides at alphasoftware.com is. Guides is generally Alpha Anywhere. TF Service is generally Transform. But you know what? If you send it to the wrong place, it'll make it there anyway.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll run down the hall. We'll print it out. We'll kill a tree. Make sure it gets to the right person. Put it on the tablet.
Yeah, well, precisely. Anyway, so that's sort of my advice that way. Oh, and as far as sandbox licenses, before someone asks about that, if you are in development mode and you have a project, you can contact our sales department. What they can do is they could set you up with a license at no charge. It's good for 3 users. It's good for a year. And you could start building out that way at no charge to yourself. So that's worth it. But you do need to talk to a salesperson to get that free license. So that's.
And I would definitely, where I'm seeing a lot of people really embrace it is, again, in the rapid prototyping. Let's say you have a client or someone who says, I'm looking to build this app, etc. You can use it and just say, hey, we're not going to connect everything, but I'm going to show you how it'd work on the phone, kind of thing. So you can prove out the concept, you can get it up and running quickly, you can get the feedback. All that is really valuable because it's a time to market issue. Now, where you're going to diverge a little bit is you have to kind of do a make versus buy kind of analysis on your application. So let's say it's a small client, they have 5 users that are going to be doing this, like it's a small little business, and you're building an alpha application or something like that, and they want to mobilize part of that app. And we have a lot of people who are like that out there. You got to kind of trade off saying, well, man, okay, I'm going to get charged per user. So for a year, maybe it's X amount of dollars for Transform because I have to pay that subscription cost. But I can get the app done in about 2 days and have it done. And then you can say, well, or I can go hire an offshore company to build an app and that'll cost me $30,000. Or I can even go into Alpha Anywhere and build my own app, but my engineering time to do that maybe a couple, 2, 3, 4 weeks. How much will that be? So I think what we're seeing is people are looking at it at 2 levels. One is time to market, how fast can I do something? But also more importantly, what is the engineering time for my different avenues? And what we're finding more and more that, you know, when you look at the true cost of the subscription versus the engineering time to build out a full app. Now, if you had 10,000 users, yeah, you're probably going to want to spend the time to build out a full-blown Alpha Anywhere mobile app, because it, you know, if you amortize the cost over that many people, it's going to make a lot of sense. But if it's smaller universe, you know, just the ability to get it done quickly and to deploy it and to have it done, you know, you get a time to market value and other pieces there. So those are some of the decisions there, but it's never too early to play with Transform, understand what it could do and get a feel for it. And what we're finding out is that it's so flexible that you not only get that upfront of like, I can get it out quickly, but it's very adaptable over time, meaning that I can go in and say, you know what, I need to add this other capability. You can do it very quickly. And now with Transform programming language, it opens up a whole new realm of more complex things you can do within Transform, but still much easier and faster than trying to code it yourself kind of scenario. So those are some of the factors, but definitely play with it. I think you'll have a lot of fun. And you know what you'll find is that you're gonna, as you start deploying these things, as people start using it, it opens up whole new opportunities that you never thought of, and be able to react quickly and go to market with those opportunities will in and of itself have a huge amount of value.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dan, for that extended
Yes, thank you.
explanation. All right, so here's just a good old-fashioned database question. I love these kind of questions. And this just has to do with duplicate records. This person is using Alpha Anywhere, and I'm going to presume, let's presume online as opposed to offline, but we can probably cover both cases. They want to make sure when they're entering records that they aren't entering duplicate records. So for example, they're entering in a customer, but they don't, so they're like, okay, well, we need to capture this customer's name, but they want to make sure that there isn't a duplicate. So name isn't good enough. They need to make sure that the name and the street address are different from each other before that record can be added into the table. So how would you go about?
Cool. Okay, I'm gonna have some fun real quick. I'm gonna build a quick UX to simulate this, so bear with me. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm gonna go to my Northwinds database.
Oh, actually, you chose right, by the way. It says, he said he's using a UX and it's a web app, so.
All right, cool, okay. So I know that took a long time, everybody, but I have a fully running UX now based on my database. I appreciate your patience. I know it can get very annoying and old. Waiting for that. Okay. So now I have working preview and I have my little app here. Okay. So I've got, this has got everything into it where I can, previewing is the most time consuming part of it.
It is, isn't it?
Because I'm online. There we go. Okay. So here's my record here. I can kind of next step through it there. Actually, you know, I'll go into design, go to properties. We use compact style. So it's a little easier to see it. So all good in there. But now I have an issue of when I create a new record, I want to do what's called validation. And what's neat is Alpha has like 12,000 different ways to do validation. And that's a literal quote. There are 12,000 ways you can do it. But there's a couple different ways to do it. Okay. So I'm going to explore the 3 primary ways you would do validation. Validation step number 1, and it depends on the complexity of it, but when you have here, let's say it's company name here, let's do customer ID since I know those by heart. So I can go over here and I have what is called validation rules. And so these are my easy, simple things. So I can say, for instance, I require a value, allow letters, white space, etc. But there's a really cool feature in here called cross-file validation, and it's built into the validation rules. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to say alpha DAO, since I'm using alpha DAO. What I want to do here is I'm going to select my connection string. Oops, I think I have it in there. Oh, I can't use there. Okay. I'm surprised I can't use a connection string already. Did I say alpha DAO? I'm going to use saved connection string, select my Northwinds here. So now I can click the table, which is customers. I can look for the field here, which in this case is customer ID, and I can tell it the value must exist or the value must not exist. So for instance, if I just wanted to make sure when I entered in a new customer ID that that existing value did not exist, I'm done here. That's it. This, what will happen is when I enter a value here, it will run this, and if it finds a match, it will say, oh, whoa, whoa. Or I'm looking up in a table and I want to make sure it exists in that table, I can use the exist aspect here. Now, the only downside on this is limited to a single field. So this is more of just a single field capability. So you go, okay, great. That's great. Well, what do we need to do next? So option number 2 is a little more crude. And it's the nice thing about that option is when you tab out of this field, you can do what's called an immediate validation client side and server side, and it will run that validation event and check it right there. Now, it assumes you're connected, but that's the way it goes from there. Now, method number 2 is the following. I can go to my server side events after dialogValidate, and in here, I could put some code to say check and make sure that that field doesn't exist. So I'd have to write my Xbasic code here to grab it. So I'll get e.data, I'll say dim customer ID as C, customer ID is equal to e.data submitted dot, if I go to my controls, it's called customer ID. So that's going to grab the submitted customer ID, and then here I would do a lookup here. So in fact, you may want to also say dim address as C, and then address is equal to e.data submitted dot address. And now I can do my lookup here. Now there's a really cool function, by the way, I just wanted to share that with you, is that I'll go back here, go to SQL lookup. Just to make simple so you don't have to write a lot of code. And I'm gonna go grab that, copy that, put it in the chat window. But this is a cool little function here that basically you tell it the connection string, the table, the result you want to get back, and then the filter. And then you run it, and what happens is that runs and gives you the information back. And so therefore, and we also have something called SQL insert and update that are the same thing, where I don't have to write a whole bunch of script. It's 4 lines of code. So I can actually go in here and say, okay, my connection is Northwinds, my customers is our table's customers, my result is going to be ID, and then I'm going to do a filter, and I could actually build this filter. And this filter can be also like customer ID is equal to this and address is equal to that. So you can use that here. So I would go in here and I do my SQL lookup. If it returns a value, skip the save action and notify the person. So I can actually, after they've submitted the form, grab the information, do that lookup, and then whether it works or not, I can go ahead and save the data or tell them back, no, I'm sorry, I can't save that data. Now, the only downside of this is this only occurs when you click submit and submit that into the back end, so this runs. So let's look at another option you have, very similar to that. So the last option I want to cover here is that you'll notice we have validation rules, which you could use that for simple situations, but we also have something called validation Xbasic. And what happens here is that you can write your own little Xbasic code, which would be essentially the same as what I did on that server side. But the cool thing about this is that this validates the moment you exit that screen. So let me give you an example of that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it here. And I'm going to go ahead and have my little JavaScript function there. I'm going to say, so this is a very simple validation. Basically what it's going to do is take the value for customer ID. In this case, it's going to compare it to an empty string. And if it's empty, it's going to throw an error. So let's try this. And I want to do client and server side because I want to run both the JavaScript and the Xbasic here. So I'll do a working preview. And let's see this run right here. Dun, 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 dun. Come on, baby. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to put in test, and then I'm going to tab out of it. And you'll notice my little, if you watch my cursor, I'm going to tab out of it. Watch the cursor. You'll see there was like a little circle because it was running that little code. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to customer ID. I'm going to empty it out. I'm going to hit tab to go out and watch what happens. It immediately runs that Xbasic and it tells me my ID. And since this is a error, the system won't let me submit it because it's an error. So now I can go back in here and let's try and let's make that a little more interesting. I'm sorry, go here, if customer ID is equal to ALF key. So what I would do is take this customer ID, do that SQL lookup, and if it didn't do that, then it's going to give you a problem within the system right here. And the data in the current row is eData, so I can actually refer to customer ID, company name, etc. at the same time. So now let's go back and try that one more time. So you use the same concept as you grab what are the current values in the interface, run a lookup. Based on that lookup, you say yay or nay, and then you could trigger that from there. So I can go in here, let's say test, that passed. Let's go ahead and put empty. Well, that passed now because I'm not checking for an empty, but now let me put in that and you'll see there. Now you'll see, oh, customer, I can't blame, that makes no sense. Well, what's cool here is I can go in here and say, customer I cannot be ALF key. So you have a lot of power over this. So there are three ways. One is through what's called a validation rules. You can also do it on the afterDialogValidate, or last but not least is you can do it on this validation Xbasic. They'll all pretty much use the same concept. One has less coding, but this is a way for you to attack that and be able to. The thing I like about this is that the moment you tab out of that field, boom, it does the check. So you don't fill out a whole form and then hit publish and then wait for them to see it. And that could be, if you have a long form, you have to think about it. Maybe they've scrolled down to the bottom and all of a sudden the error's up top. It's always, I think, better user experience to do almost immediate validation because then they can fix the error right away before they go ahead and submit the form.
Very cool. Just one little note. Back when you were doing the Xbasic functions, if you want to just click on that under the code tab,
okay.
The event to use wouldn't be after, but wouldn't it be on dialog, or rather dialogValidate rather than after dialogValidate? Or am I wrong about that?
No. It's valid in either one. And that's
okay.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Okay. I have always done after dialogValidate because then I just worry about the two here. What this means is that after the dialog has done, and it used to be, UX used to be called dialog, has done all of its own validation. So after it's run all of these validations.
After it's done the ones for the individual ones, yet before the record is inserted.
I think you're right. To be pure and to be the right way to do it, I would do dialogValidate because this is where you would do that validation exercise. I just tend to cheat and put it here because then I have all my code in one place. But again, you get access to all the submitted items there, and then you can go down here and then you can so let's try that. Let me show you how that would work here. I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to say, if customer ID is equal to ALF key, then else, and if. So I'll go ahead and go here and I'll paste that here and I'll paste that here. And this is kind of redundant. So if customer is ALF key, I'm going to say true and I'm going to say customer should not be ALF key. But if it isn't, then it will go ahead and say no error and everything's good to go. So let's go ahead and try this now. So you're right. It's probably better to put it there because then it's there. But I just historically got lazy. Okay, I got 2 minutes. Let me get this there. So I'll put in ALF key here. Now notice, there
you go.
Well, no, it ran this right here. So let me go ahead and highlight that out because I only see that's immediate. This only occurs after you submit the form. So let me go ahead and try there.
Okay.
And good question though. Okay, go here, put in ALF key. Okay, notice it didn't trigger it there.
Did you spell it right though?
Yep, alf. Oh, alf key. Thank you.
Nope.
Okay. Now notice it's not immediate because I don't have immediate on, but now I'm doing submit and it didn't grab it. Oh, there you go. There we go. Oh, it took it.
I'm supposed to do that.
Well, that's not right. Well, let's see what happens here. Sorry, everybody. Don't mean
to answer another question that's coming in the meantime. Yes, the third method that Dion showed, which was where you're defining at the field level, could take two fields into account in your Xbasic dialog. So it could be both name and address, which is basically what you're asking before. And I think that would be the cleaner and neater way to do it.
Okay, so I'm in my debugger right here. Okay, so I'm going to step. Interesting. Alkfi.
That was in the code, wasn't it?
If I could spell alf key. Okay, now I'm going to do that. I'm going to submit it. So it's first thing it's doing is looking at what my customer ID. Aha, it did find it. It says has error. So I'll go ahead and run it now. And I'll have to find out. Oh, did I? Let me see. Let me look at my code.
Oh, you said it properly, but then you unsaid it at the end. Oops.
I know.
Gotta watch that code. Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. Today's session is called "How Sloppy Can Dion Be?"
We have another question that we're probably not going to get.
Okay, let's see. Step. Okay, let's run that and see. And notice where it puts the error up at the top. So if I was here, I wouldn't even see that. So I kind of like to do it permanently, but
I would do it there. Yeah. Good deal. We did have a question about whether or not you could use something like query by example, but in a list control. And I think the answer
what's cool in the list control is you can actually use the new advanced. Let me go to my list control area here. You can use the new list advanced search functionality. So built into that, oops, did I put a, no, I don't have it there. Let me find my better one here. There we are. So in there, you can have a list control, but now you can put in an advanced search. And when you have an advanced search, you essentially get the benefits of query by example because you can say search. Okay, so I'm going to say, I'm going to add a new search field, company, and I'll put in test. And I want that to be this. So the advanced search actually provides you the power of query by example. And in fact,
well, take a look at the bottom one. Yeah, QBF syntax is right there.
You can use QBF. It's
query by example and query by form. We use those terms interchangeably and probably wrongly.
But yeah, like QBF syntax means you can say test. I don't even know it, man, but you can actually put your own little text in there, and then it changes the behavior of there. So you can kind of mix and match, but really your advanced search is your friend on that these days because it allows you to do some really fun stuff with that.
Awesome. Hey, thanks very much. We are out of time, and we have several really great questions that we didn't get to. If you guys want to send them over to guides@alphasoftware.com, we will answer them personally. We may or may not be having a session next week. We won't with Dion, who will be actually here at headquarters, but busy. We will possibly be doing a design seminar next Wednesday at the same time, but check your email for changes or cancellations. Thank you, everyone who showed up. Again, any questions you want to get to us before the next time we meet, send it to guides@alphasoftware.com. Thanks again, Dion, for presenting, and thanks for everyone who asked questions. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.